everyone. Happy Tuesday night, and welcome back to Alpha to Omega Conversations for a New Earth with 6 hosts this evening. We couldn't be more excited. How are you doing tonight, Alyssa?
I am excited. This is breaking some new territory for us, so this is really exciting, and I don't know how it's going to go, but I know it's going to be fun.
Same, yeah, totally agree. To each of you who are joining us as co-hosts, we'll give you a moment to do a quick intention setting here in a few minutes. And thank you again so much for all your support and showing up with us in this vulnerable host seat to help guide the conversation tonight. Those of you who are joining on the other side of the camera, we're so excited to be with you tonight, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. These conversations that we do on Tuesday nights are all about exploration and vulnerability and asking questions that you don't always find the space to ask in the day-to-day grind that we know can be pretty tasking and challenging from time to time. So tonight we're going to do something a little different. Along with the 6 co-hosts, we are honoring the equinox falling into Libra today and talking about balance. So Alyssa and I were talking about this earlier. It's pretty remarkable that Libra is literally the scales that are balanced, and the equinox, which is the first day of Libra, is the day of equal balance of light and dark. So it just felt like the universe is really calling us to balance our relationships and just take a moment to shine a light on it and see what we see. And that's, I think, really all this is about. It's not about making these big changes or seeing these huge things that are so wrong or needing so much improvement. It's really just about seeing it and allowing it to be. And I think that's what we would invite you to do tonight as part of the conversation. So thanks again for joining. Please meet us in the comments anytime you have something you'd like to share or add to the conversation, and we will be excited to add you in and see what we can uncover together. So to begin the night, we're just going to do a quick intention setting as a group. And I'm actually going to invite Alyssa to go first, if you don't mind. You can totally kick it back to me if you want me to go first. But we are going to just take a moment to do a quick intention setting as we talk about balancing relationships. What do you think? Are you okay with going first?
Yeah, I can go first. So mine was to be more emotionally vulnerable. I do feel like I'm pretty good at talking about my emotions and like giving it a name. I'm very practiced in that, but it is like a totally different thing to show up in the actual emotion. So it's like allowing that emotion to become part of the expression itself, which is really where you feel the most seen, but it's the most vulnerable. So I could say I feel really hurt and really sad, but I can have like basically a shield on to be able to express that, or I can go into it and like have some tears and feel the feeling as I'm expressing it. And I do think that that gives both partners the chance to really show up in a different way. It's hard for, I think, even you, Matt, you can attest to this or not, like if someone else is actually expressing the feeling instead of just talking about it, it's easier for you to feel it too and want to go there with them. So I have kind of put this layer on myself that it's because it felt like I wasn't seen, or that it made you uncomfortable for me to express it. And when you didn't meet me there, I'm like, I'll just talk about it. I'm going to put this here. But my new intention moving forward is to try as much as possible to offer this vulnerable part of me. And if you don't meet me there, then at least I went there for myself. And hopefully I can then go back to my own feelings and validate it more instead of staying kind of out of them. That's mine.
It's beautiful, and as guilty as I feel for leading you to need those walls of protection, I am hopeful that my intention of presence in our conversations will coincide with yours in a way that will be a new beginning for us in a lot of those conversations that have been difficult in the past. So in presence, my intention is to sit and look for that feeling together with you, to go out of the left side of my brain and into the vulnerability and into the feeling, and to actually share what that feels like together, because I would like to create more of that in our relationship too. So we'll give everyone just a moment to share yours who would like to as well. Beth, would you like to take a moment to share your intention?
Oop.
Sorry.
Okay. Yes. So balance in relationships is something I feel a lot of shame over. due to a lot of failed relationships in my life. And an intention I'd like to set forth, what has been on my heart a lot lately is figuring out what to own, and take responsibility for, and figuring out what I can release. And even the part that I own, once I have learned the lessons that are to be learned from that, being able to release that as well, and not just feeling the constant heaviness of shame and guilt. So,
Wow. My presence wants me to sit in that for a while. There's a lot there, and I so appreciate you sharing. I speak for everyone when I say we so appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you too, and very much looking forward to getting where we will in this evening's conversation. So thank you. Tara, would you like to share your intention?
Hi, hello there. My intention for this is actually just get better working on mending relationships, manifesting mending relationships. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I think that will be something we'll have the opportunity to go into tonight as well. And excited to see how that may unfold for you. So thank you, Tara. Okay, Angie, would you like to share what you're thinking as far as the intention for this evening?
Yeah, absolutely. So my intention is to release limiting beliefs and just really moving forward and past all the things that I set barriers across.
I love it. And that's limiting beliefs specifically is something that's come up a lot in our consciousness and our conversations lately. So really appreciate you shining a light on it and just bringing that into the conversation tonight. So thank you. Cassandra, moving over to your intention for this evening. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my intention is to foster the creativity, nurture the creativity in my relationships, and kind of, again, open up all that potential, put away any self-limiting beliefs.
Love it. I love the word choice as well. And I think going into the last 3 months of the year is really kind of a definitive time frame we can look at. So I feel like these are intentions we can all assist each other and guide each other in, and hopefully look back 3 months from now and have a story to tell and some important events that came along the way. Okay, Eve, I know we didn't have a moment to discuss this earlier, but did you have an intention for this evening about relationships that you would like to share?
Well, I would love to try to share a little bit the person who I am with you guys. I'm a little bit like a person who accepts everybody as the way they are. I don't have too much judgments, at least I can tell. And I just would like to get to know you a little bit better, because the way that you see the perspective that you guys have from life is totally different than mine, and that reality fits me. So it's nice to share.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a beautiful place to be, is being in an open environment.
Receptive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, open and receptive, and really letting it go through you instead of just in one ear and out the other. That resonates deeply, and I love the hearts on the screen there as well, Alyssa. So before we jump into the questions, and again, thank you all so much for sharing that. The heart chakra is open. The invocation has been spoken. I didn't mean to rhyme, but it happens all the time. So before we begin, we have a comment that I think would be really important to address. I think all these intentions could feel intimidating. They could feel out of reach. It could be like, oh, this isn't for me. The comment is, this isn't for the singles. LOL. I think I can relate to that. But we may have a different perspective on that. So let's weigh in before we continue. Alyssa, what would you say to this evening not being for the singles?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we've all been the singles, and it is with these conversations that we actually learn how to have better relationships, whether you're single, whether it doesn't matter where you're at, relationships are surrounding you. And improving those relationships improves your capacity to feel joy and connection in life. So I disagree, but that is my own opinion.
Well, I laughed at that. I'm single. I've been divorced twice, and I would love to have a satisfying, fulfilling relationship one day. But I feel like this time in my life is a very hard, deep journey of reflection. And that is the phase I'm in, and it is grueling. My kids can attest to that. Like, it is not fun. It's heavy. There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of discouragement. There's a lot of wanting to give up. But I know that this is what everything in my life has led me to. It's led me to this hard phase of singleness where I am supposed to pick apart everything that has happened in my life up until this point and really embrace the scary journey of healing.
I love that, and thank you for sharing. And it takes me to the place that I felt called to do that as well, Beth, which lasted for 4 years. And it was 4 years that every part of me died. There was nights that nothing was really alive. And then I found things that were alive, and it kind of came back little by little, but it really started with a very severe breakdown. And I know Alyssa went through hers. I guess we could call it like the dark night of the soul. And it felt like a lot of them. And it resonates so deeply that that's what you feel called to do. And I think it's so commendable. And it's a reminder that single or married or whatever your relationship status may be is an outer reflection of a much deeper inner experience. So wherever we are in this status, this is such a teeny blip in the vast universe of experience that is us, that single 1 minute, in a relationship the next, it's more about the journey than it is about the appearance. And I appreciate and just resonate so deeply with what you shared. Did anyone else have something they'd like to weigh in on this one? Yeah, let's come back to you. But yes, this is for the singles. Absolutely. And when you get that relationship that's meant for you, you get reminded of that. Like, this is yours. This isn't mine. So when we find those mirrors that are meant to stay with us forever, that single aspect becomes super, super important. But go ahead, listen.
I was just going to say, like, wouldn't it be so nice if it really was just a night? That dark night of the soul. Like, I wish so badly that's all it was, but like, it's not. There can be those moments and that were like, that night was one of the worst nights ever, but it's a collection of these little ego deaths that eventually you are able to reprogram and renegotiate your own existence. And it's in those deepest painful parts that you naturally became a part of you as in your upbringing from your parents, limiting beliefs. You just took it on. You're like, oh, I am? Wow, okay. And you started growing in one direction. How painful it is to that whole branch of your tree to need to fall away so that more energy can feed something new. And it's in that dying of that feeling the depth of that kind of belief in yourself and where it came from and how much it's hurt you, the more longer it's gone. So it is not a dark night of the soul, but that's what we call it. It's this shedding that happens in different times and different layers. And it's the most beautiful and the most traumatizing experience you go on. But when you do it like in an intention, how do I say that? If you're doing it with intention versus doing it because it's just coming at you, you can feel so much more empowered because you're not resisting it. You're saying, okay, bring it on. And it goes quicker, it goes easier, and you get a lot more from it when you're doing it that way.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to just give a quick reframe, and then we'll turn to Tara and then Eve. Really looking forward to what you have to add. But I just wanted to say I appreciate you. I don't know where Dark Night of the Soul came from. That was the feeling, but you gave it a much clearer definition with the snake skin. It's like a metamorphosis. It's like the butterfly emerging from the pupae, whatever you call it. So I appreciate you redefining that so much. Tara, did you have something you wanted to add?
Okay, I think we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. I'll figure technology out one day. Okay, sorry. I think I can tag along on you, Alyssa. I think that it works with it, but backtracking a little for the comment about this isn't a relationship, it's not for singles. But I think the most important relationship, at least for me in discovering, was my relationship with myself. Like, how is your relationship with yourself? Like, I didn't realize, like, I didn't know who I was. I let society tell me who I was. I let my parents, I let my religion, I let my, like, all of the things, like, tell me who I was. And I got very lost in all of the things. I considered myself a chameleon, like, oh yeah, I can blend in with the crowd. I can do anything. And I wore that as like a badge of honor, right? Like, yeah, like I can fit in with any group. But then I had no identity for myself. And so in coming to realize that, I was outsourcing all of my power, all of my energy to other people who wanted to put me in the box that they thought was appropriate for me. And a lot of very limiting things: dim your light, don't speak up, don't all of the things. My journey to self and loving myself has been a long, hard road. I am a grown adult woman. I've just gotten to this place where I have enough power and respect and love for myself that I now refuse to take anyone. Yeah, I'll take critique, and I'll take like coming from a place of love. But if someone's trying to throw some trash or anything at me, and I just have to block that and like, Jay-Z, brush your shoulders off. Like, I know who I am now, and I went down a mother effing long road to get there and find that. So I am no longer going to allow anybody to tell me who I am. I know who I am. Do you know who you are? How is your relationship with yourself? I say that, hopefully, I know that came off a little angry, but with love, like, check in with yourself first. People want to go off and I'm sorry, I'm taking control a little bit, and say that self-care, self-love is selfish. It is not selfish. You cannot give from a cup that isn't full. Like, when you're full, when you're overflowing, that's when you're at your best. That's when you can give to your, like, that's when you can really give. And trying to come as like me, I was a people pleaser and all of the things, you know, coming from a place of like need and all of that. And I'll cut off right here, but
no, that's perfect.
if someone else has anything to chime in on, but like, yeah. So I would just like to end with that. Like, check in. How's your relationship with you?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. If there's something to be passionate about, self-love is it. So thank you, Tara, for sharing. Eve, I believe you had something to add as well.
Yeah, so I totally agree, Tara. It's the most important to have a good relationship with yourself. But let me tell you guys just a brief story of what happened to me. When I arrived to the United States, I met a wonderful man that now is my husband. But in between, we broke up, and I had another relationship that Matt and Alyssa knew very well since the beginning to the end. In the end of that relationship, I felt so dependent of that relationship because that person was basically my house, my his family was my family. I was alone here in the United States, starting over at 40. So, and my daughter back in Mexico. So I was just like lost. And everything happened when everything broke finally, because I took my place in this world and I say, I can broke totally with this toxic relationship. I remember that I texted Lisa and I told her, hey, this is happening. What I could do? Okay, Matt is putting together a bed in the living room for you for sleep. And you are just more than welcome. You are not alone. When I arrived to that house, all broken because anyways, even that relationship wasn't the best. Everything hurts, because you are getting out of the shell and finally getting ready for starting something new that I was already started when I turned 40. So when I found myself in that house, Alisa came to me and we were very close and she just hugged me. And in that moment, I realized that one, I love myself, but I have people who love me and support me. And the second thing, third, I guess, after what you mentioned, is to get to know that you have your support with people that really love you and treasure you. And that fills you and, put you exactly in the right way where you're going to say, thank you, universe, because I have everything I need.
Yeah, that's I remember that like it was yesterday, and it is so powerful and beautiful. Even when you feel like you don't have the ability, you don't have the means, you do. You have a heart, you have a voice, you have a mind, you are sovereign. You don't have to put up with anything that you don't want to, that doesn't feel good. And that can be so challenging and so difficult, but that can be the first step. And that's exactly the step that you need to liberate yourself from whatever those prisons are. And Eve, for you, it was like the jump off point for this magical, amazing life across the country. And we couldn't be more thrilled. So thank you for sharing. And Beth, I believe you had something to add to that as well.
Yes, I was really feeling that when you were talking about, going somewhere and not having your family, and because that's been like an inner wound in me that I'm still not totally healed from, and still a lot of days I haven't overcome. I think I'm further than I was a few years ago, but not having family support is extremely difficult and extremely hard, and it does force you to look within because there's nowhere else to look. And I really commend you for your journey, and thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you, Eve, and thank you for sharing that also, Beth. That's a difficult thing to uncover, is your place in the world when it feels like the place you're used to doesn't fit anymore. It can be such a difficult journey, and that's why we need each other. And I think that's a big part of what these conversations and about what we put into the collective consciousness is really all about, is finding a way to feel safe and feel sovereign, even when the definitions you've given yourself for those things aren't there yet. So I think that can be a very powerful thing to do. So going into some of the things we wanted to discuss tonight, I think with relationships, there's so many little aspects that become what they are to each of us because of our experience. And so taking the time to reframe them and rework them can really liberate us from different patterns that we get stuck in. And one that we felt called to discuss tonight is this idea of rupture and repair. There's little things, we could call them micro breaks. Alyssa with our kids often calls them heartstrings. There's little heartstrings or little trust strings that we have with each other that get played all the time. And sometimes they get severed or sometimes they get broken. So the question, I'll turn it to you first, Alyssa, but it's so important to understand how we handle these things. And do we share it or do we not? And if we do, what do we do to make it better? Or do we think there's no point, so it just gets worse? But have you ever felt like once something has been broken and then addressed and rebuilt, you're actually closer than you were before?
Yes, I would say yes. I want to hear what everyone else says. But like for me, I have said many times in my life, like the right kind of fight is actually the most incredible, and that I'm so grateful for it. And I don't want to, I know we have some negativity around fight, but that's usually the language I've used. But for me, in my, like, even just with family, since I was young, like there's something so incredible about a full repair where you feel closer and more in love or loving with the person and more connected to the person than you did even before they did something that hurt your feelings. And that taught me something really kind of profound. I didn't quite understand it even at a young age, but as I kept getting older, I'm like, there's something beautiful about our getting our feelings hurt. And that then I learned later in life as well that they did this big study, and like the couples that they deemed as like healthy or unhealthy, but either way, they saw that the amount of rupture was actually the same. And the difference between the healthy and unhealthy was actually just how they handled the rupture itself. So the most healthy relationships has these ruptures, and we're not meant to try to create a relationship that don't have these ruptures. Like that is part of the beauty of having relationships, is having these ruptures that then bring you closer together. It gives you this depth of the bond itself, to have these feelings that are deep, that are inside you, that you've already experienced, but you're wanting to be seen, you're wanting to be validated, and you're wanting to feel closer. And that's what these ruptures give you the opportunity to do. So if you know how to do it, you can actually become closer with the people that have hurt you, as long as, you know, both sides are willing to lean into this. And if not, there's things that you can do to do that for yourself, even if they're not going to. But the steps are the same. So that's what I think we wanted to kind of digest and look into a little bit further today, is what is the most healthy way to create a healthy repair when ruptures happen? So my answer is yes. Not all the time, but there are times. And that's what I'd like to look at tonight, is the difference between those two.
Yeah, I appreciate your answer. And I think growing up, I think even in the media everywhere, there's so many examples of this idea of estrangement. Like, no, I just don't talk to that person anymore. Or, you know, that's even my father or my mother or my brother, whoever it may be. And I always wondered, like, is that actually helping you, or is that hurting you and just burying it deeper, that it's just going to cause you whatever pain you may not even be aware of forever? What is truly the right way to honor yourself when a conflict happens, especially if it's a difficult one? Is it to address it, or is it what is the right way to go about that? So we'd love to hear some more perspectives on this. We'll go to Angie and then Beth. I think you may have some perspective to share. But what would you say, Angie? How do you know whether a rupture in a relationship can be repaired or not?
So with my experience, I really had to take myself out of the equation and kind of sit with all of the different aspects of what had happened. Look at what I thought, look at what the other person thought, because if I were to stay in a situation, it tends to escalate and escalate and escalate. And then not only are your feelings invalid, or you're not getting the validation that you're looking for, you're being attacked. And then you kind of retreat into yourself and just really, you adapt to it and you harbor it. And so by removing yourself from the situation, you're allowing yourself to really look at it from all angles without any chatter. And that's really, really, really helped me.
If what I'm hearing is that you need to kind of remove yourself from the situation, is that for a certain amount of time, like for a break, or how is that work as far as duration?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the person that you're having that conflict with. Like, for instance, my situation, it's helped a little bit in putting it back into a position to where it's not abusive or it's not negative. I mean, there's a common ground. So as long as you can pull yourself to that common ground, you're able to work on it and, you know, make make strides forward. But as long as you realize what the relationship is for what it is, you really have to take it with a grain of salt every step of the way. I have.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so what I'm hearing is like, remove yourself when this conflict or this fight or whatever's happening, take a break, remove yourself, don't press down a road that's dangerous. And then you've got to decide when and where it's best to come back, if it's best to come back. Is that kind of what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, what's going to be the most self-serving or the self-loving for you? You know, you really have to decide, is this relationship worth it? Is it something that can be fixed or worked on, and kind of go from there?
Yeah, I love that. And that feels like permission. Like you give yourself permission to do what feels best to you, and you don't force yourself back into anything that you don't want to.
Exactly.
So that's powerful. And that's something that I think on the flip side, if you are forcing yourself, you're really not doing the work. If you're pushing yourself, even if it's something you know you need to do, if you're not ready yet, and Alyssa's a really good reminder of this, go get ready. And if you need days, weeks, months, take them. But don't go distract yourself. Do the work. Get your journal. Say the words. Go somewhere. Get some help. Do a virtual call with a therapist. Whatever you need to do. Talk to ChatGPT. Very good listener. All these can be really good tools. So I really appreciate that perspective. And thank you so much for sharing. Beth, did you have insight into this idea of when and where and how to repair things as they arise in relationships?
Yeah, I liked what Alyssa and Angie said, and you, Matt. And I was thinking, Angie, like how that, removing oneself can take a lot of self-control. And it also, you have to commit to a lot of self-reflection to do that. So that can be hard to do. And then I was also thinking there's the other extreme, because I see myself I love this theme of balance, because I see myself going from one extreme to another. I mean, there's times where I want to run and hide and remove myself because I need to go find a safe space. I don't feel safe. There's conflict. I don't want to say or do the wrong thing. So I run and hide. I cut off communication, and I try to do that deep reflection, self-work. But then sometimes I run to the other end where I'm just trying to work it out right away. And either end has its pros and cons, but I was trying to envision like a middle ground is being able to open up our heart and maybe be a more objective observer and be curious. Because I was just even thinking about a situation that happened with me tonight where a comment was made and I wanted to speak about it, and I felt like what I said was okay, but at the same time I was also closing off my heart for protection, because I go into protective mode when I could actually have not been afraid and just opened up my heart and shown graciousness or curiosity. And maybe that for me is more of a middle ground for me to work on, but I think it's different for every person's path and journey where that middle ground is for them.
Yeah, I totally feel you there. And like, that's been the whole thing in my whole life. It's like both of those are actually not the best, but I would teeter between both of them too, because I didn't know of a third option. And that's why it has been such a long journey. Once I was like, is there a third option? And what does it look like? Started doing self-help books and trying to actually practice in real life, which is hard. You can have all the good intentions of like, I'm not going to project, I'm going to get real vulnerable and just share my truth. And instead you go forward with blaming. So I think that some of the skills that might be helpful that we've learned is that step away, but it's the step away with the intent of finding your truth. So you don't step away to run, because in that, and sometimes you just need to run. And I'm not saying there's something wrong with that, but if you have the intent to get away as far as you need to in order to feel safe enough to go inward, and then you're going inward in order to curate your truth. And that's important regardless of how much you end up sharing with this other person. You might end up finding this truth and like talking to chat and being like, yeah, so I feel good now and I don't actually need to talk about it. It's not going to be worth it. And that's okay too. But in your most important relationships, it's likely that it's worth it. It's worth it if you know how to go into it in a way that will likely be beneficial. And that's why taking some of these important skills that we've learned can really benefit, because we have learned through blood, sweat, and tears what not to do time after time after time, right, Matt? And it's been sticking with it that we've curated like something that works for us and that we still fail at, but that we kind of understand now what it looks like. What do we really each need, and what are the steps in this in order to be aware of our blind spots and actually proactively do it in a way that helps us. So I feel you entirely, and I do believe that there's this middle ground that is really hard to achieve, but it is worth it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're both so onto it, and it really is the question mark path. It's like, you know, this one, so you can go there, and it's a place you've been before, so you know what you can expect. You know this one too. The one in the middle is dark, it's mysterious, it's undefined, it's unknown, and it's kind of like a living, breathing thing that you're stepping into and co-creating with this. I guess it's like the path less traveled, so to speak. And that's literally like what I remind myself of. And I have to hum. So as I think for men, like our feelings can be so far away because of our conditioning or whatever it may be. I don't know why, but all I know is it takes hours sometimes to find the feeling. And I'm lucky I have a mirror who's a really good reminder. No, that's not a feeling. Go try again. But for me, it takes humming. And sometimes the humming takes me to kind of like moaning, and then it goes to crying, and there's a feeling. And sometimes it takes me to a different direction, but it really does take time. So what Angie, what you're sharing, and Eve and Beth, what all of you have shared, it really is real. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in an instant. The timing, it'll be completely across the board for whatever that situation may bring to you. And finding the presence within you to go there can be different, and it can take a lot of patience, but it is worth it because it's you and it's real. And you're working through decades of your own past trauma, plus all the generational trauma from everyone before you, and everything that you're carrying that you're not consciously aware of, that may have been put there by, we won't go into that tonight, but there's a lot. So it's a lot, and you're doing quantum moves. So thank you so much for sharing. We've got a comment that I'd like to put up, but before, let's make sure everyone who's had a chance to weigh in on this topic. Tara, and then we'll come back to you. Go ahead, Tara.
Hey, we can hear me. Yay, thanks for picking me, Maddie. One of the things that I would just like to add, something that helped me was when I gained the awareness that most of the time when I was in these relationships and there was a lot of communication issues and stuff, I was in my head more so thinking of my response instead of actually listening to the other person. And so henceforth a lot of breakdown in communication issues. So I realized once I started like checking myself and like, well, first step, like trigger warning, walking trigger warning, by the way. I have these little badges made, sidetrack. I'll send one to you. But yeah, no, oh my gosh, I got myself off track with that. But what was I even saying?
Yeah, no, what you're saying is perfect. It's you're being.
So listening. Thank you for listening. See, thank you for listening and helping lead me back to that. But yeah, that was my major thing. I would someone would say something that would trigger me, get me really like set off, and I would just be thinking how I need to defend myself or how they misinterpreted me and all of these other things and like da-da-da. And then so when they were speaking, I wasn't even hearing what they were saying, and then people talking over each other, and it's just like then it just turns into a whole big mess.
Absolutely, yeah. But you're totally right. And we were talking about this a little earlier. The way we talk to ones we love, or especially children, is so different than how we talk to each other sometimes. Children, we're like checking for understanding, reflecting it back, asking little detail-oriented questions. A lot of that kind of falls off with time. And a lot of the karma that we develop in relationships it's like you said, one thing on top of another. Well, you did this. Well, you did that. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. And it becomes a contest rather than a conversation. So resonates so deeply. And we're going to get to that. That's actually one of the couple things we wanted to move to next. So we'll come back to what you said in just a moment. But thank you, Tara. And then Eve, before we get to a comment from a viewer, did you have something you wanted to add as well?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of funny. I'm just turned 45. I exist in a new place in my life, and my daughter has shown me how all the puzzle in the picture of my life has been like, fitting one piece to each other. And I mentioned this because I didn't find like the way to fit in my life with being a single mom, but at the same time to be married with my new husband. And I had a lot of noise in my mind, and I couldn't really listen and pay attention of what they wanted to say until my daughter started to teach me how to listen people. Now I pay attention on everything she say. I'm discovering a new person, not just because she is a teenager and she's becoming into a little woman, but of myself. I find myself like more connected with the feminine, but with my husband more connected with the masculine, which it makes me feel like a little bit more balanced. And I'm actually listening. So one of the things that I want to tell you guys is like, when we listen to others, sometimes we are in that place where everything is magic and you really connect to the other person, and you can tell if something wrong happening in between us in our relationship years ago or just a few minutes ago. Try to put yourself in that mind that is thinking different probably than you. You're not agreeing, but now you are listening, and it gives you a little bit of that state of mind. And actually from here, comes from here because you are talking with somebody who you love. Even when I mentioned it to a couple that I know a long time ago. If you yell to each other, it's like Asians say, when a person is yelling to each other, is because they are far from each other. So if you talk nicely in a really quiet mode, when you can talk, listening also respecting the other person is when you really connect and listen and learn. And it's super difficult to reach that point in my very humble point of view.
You're so right. And a part of me that got shamed kind of into disappearing a long time ago is this part of listening that actually feels good. Like everyone knows it kind of feels good to speak your voice and share your truth and have your opinion. But there's something about listening and reflecting and understanding someone else that really does feel good. And in a man's perspective, I think you sort of get, as a boy, you've got to like know the answers, and you've got to be okay no matter how bad you feel. And you sort of just stop being curious, and you stop that part of you that feels good just to listen and understand. So I appreciate you sharing that, Eve. And I'm sure we all kind of have a perspective we could share. But let's put up a couple comments before we keep going. First of all, Phil, really appreciate you joining tonight. Love your emojis here with the Libra balance. And then I think it's the year of the snake, or it could be the snake skin, doing the metamorphosis that he was discussing. And then a couple comments that I'd love to get anyone's take on here. First one, so not sure how we'll take this, but lovers don't fight unless one is cheating, and then always resolve your issues before you fall asleep for the night. So really appreciate these perspectives, but I do think there's a bit to unpack here. And then, okay, Libra fire snake, pretty much got it. Thanks again, Phil. But Alyssa, would you like to comment on either or both of these?
So let's see. Obviously, this is coming from personal experience, and that's interesting that that's the perspective that is taken. And I don't know, I would be curious, is the fighting because your partner is cheating and you feel like, oh, we wouldn't be fighting if you're not cheating, or is it we're fighting because I've been cheating? But either way, I think there's a lot of good reasons to fight, and I hope that no one's cheating. But that is an interesting perspective, and I would be totally interested to go more into that if Phil was here. Always resolve your issues before you fall asleep. This is something I actually heard like in the Mormon world since I was little. And it was, I don't know if it was Mormon, it was just my community and my family. It was like, you should always work it out before you go to bed. And there is some truth to that, but I don't know, sometimes it's that sleep that you need more than anything else. And it literally, to keep talking about it is going to make it worse and worse because you're so freaking tired. So if you have it in you, yeah, let's resolve it, because when you have to go to sleep without it, like, you're probably not going to sleep as well. But if it ultimately leads to just drain out and not coming to a conclusion, you're probably better off just going to sleep. But I do know that some people live by that, and they probably don't argue or have as much to say as we do, because there's definitely been times where I know sleeping was better. That's my opinion on that, though. I would love to hear anybody else's comments on those.
Yeah, we need it for sure. And I think that you're probably on the same wavelength as us. But what I would color your comment with, Alyssa, for Phil, which I really appreciate it so much that you shared that with us, because I think it is important not to give up. And if the spirit behind that is so you don't just forget about it and never resolve it, that's a super important point that Phil's bringing up. But for our life, like, we have 2 sofas that I can sleep on, or I can get a hotel. So it's important to keep your boundaries, I think, is the most important aspect to remember, which is don't let it go away and pretend it didn't happen. That's going to be the worst option. And then don't force yourself to do it when you don't feel up to it. So hit us back in the comment, Phil. We'd love more color on the insight here about the fight cheating situation, and then any other comments you have there about resolving it before you go to bed. But Angie, did you have something that you'd like to add about this idea of resolving it before you go to bed?
Yeah, so sometimes it does help to have a spare bedroom. Really, it does. Because sometimes you can't sleep and you can feel, especially if you're a super empath like myself, you can feel tension and you absorb it. And the more you absorb it, the angrier you get. So if you need to, like I said before, distance yourself a little, it might be a great idea. So it gives you time to reflect too. And, really, like Alyssa said at the beginning, you look at yourself and you know, what's my part in this? And so you kind of are able to have a settled foundation after that point.
Agreed.
What are you looking for?
We've all been through this, right?
Like glowing because it's dark in here now.
Hey.
I can't find it though.
No, that's we've all been there. So really appreciate that. I think, Angie, you also hit on, like, sleep is a superpower. It really is. We sacrifice our sleep because we like Netflix more. But when you sleep enough, the hormones your body gives you are your superpower. It's like the melatonin is like your creative source for your pituitary gland. It's like scientifically proven that sleep is a superpower. So thank you for calling that out as well. Beth, did you have an insight you'd like to share on this one too?
I, like Alyssa, I wasn't raised Mormon, but I was raised very conservative Baptist, and there's I was taught the Bible verse, "Don't let the sun go down on your wrath." And so basically you were sinning if you went to bed angry or something unsettled. And so that was something I experienced growing up, that we had to resolve our issues. But what that really, I think, ended up happening in my own heart is that some things are too layered and far too deep to be resolved in one night. And it left so much cognitive dissonance in my mind and heart, because it didn't feel settled. It's like it was settled so it could be put away, but it didn't ever feel fully settled. And I think I do think it's a noble goal, but I think we also have to look at things realistically and leave ourselves open for the possibility of there being some really, really deep layers, and maybe looking at it in smaller goals. Like maybe we can settle this small goal tonight, but this right here, this issue could be months or years, and maybe breaking it down into smaller, more workable goals. That way one person doesn't just feel totally disregarded, like, oh, we settled that, when really, there could be so much more underneath the surface. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And we did get some clarification from Phil as well, but I think you've really hit it on the nose, which is we get to choose what works best for us. And we've got to be willing to reframe those things in a way that's true to us, or we're doing what Tara had shared earlier, and we're just contorting ourselves to fit the norm that we think we need to be without ever really finding out who we actually are. So we do have a little bit of a clarification from Phil. So makes more sense. Met an elderly man, celebrated 75 years. Amazing, by the way. Way to go to this man. Asked him what is the secret, and he said resolve before bed. So it was a step along the way. We have additional steps to add that will even take us further along. However, hitting that 75-year mark that's like a tall order. So amen to that. And then finally,
I will say the generations are very different. And this man who has been married 75 years, he lived in a different era where the women were supposed to kind of listen and not talk much. So it's very possible that in the relationship, we don't really know. Maybe she was saying it's fine and we're good so often in order to meet this goal, because we have to do this before bed, that maybe it didn't get resolved as much. But I'm glad that they found a way to make it work. But I don't think staying together means you're in the most healthy relationship either. He could have been in the most healthy relationship that ever existed, but he also could have been in a very different. We don't really know that. So I think that we all deserve a way to look inward and say, this is what works for me and this is what has harmed me, and I'm going to readjust according to what my heart tells me is right. So for us, letting go of that has helped us a lot, but for other people, it may not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. And each generation, it's like, if we're still living by things that they lived by thousands of years ago, are we really doing the work to like carry the baton and move civilization and consciousness forward? Probably not. Like, this is probably something we should seriously consider thinking about in a different way. So Tara, did you have something to add?
I did. Thank you, Matt. And thanks for the clarification on that, Phil. I thought it was a joke question at first. But I was going to say, I don't like the idea, for me at least personally, of putting pressure like that on something. I would say it would be based on how I'm feeling and how the other person's feeling. If one person's very triggered and one has calmed down, like, is it really best to try to force a situation, that maybe you're not ready for? Or if you're having this rule like, oh, I can't go to bed angry, then maybe you're like kind of brushing things under the rug just so that, and you're really not getting down to the root of the issue. So that would just be the only thing I had to add for that. Like, what are the reasons for, is it just so that, oh, I can say, because someone told me to do this is right, I can't get them mad. Like, sorry for the voice, but yeah. Anyway.
No, it makes sense. And that, I think it's just so, all of you're asking questions in places that we haven't always given ourselves permission to ask questions. And there's so much power in that. So I love that you're asking questions. It's okay. You're doing it in whatever voice you feel you want to do it in, Tara. But asking the questions, that's the time we're here for. This is the inquisitive age. This is the time to recreate and redefine what it is. And that's what New Earth is. That's why we're calling it New Earth. the earth is ready for something new. And that's what we're seeing all around us. And that's what we're doing here tonight. So thank you so much for adding that and clarifying that. Just, and Phil, we love you. We really appreciate you popping in, and we hope you can make it. We're here most Tuesday nights. So thanks again so much for the sharing and the back and forth. Before we're coming up on the hour, and I just wanted to kind of go into this. You've already hinted on it in so many of the things that have come up recently, but in our relationships, these two pieces that feel most integral is on the one side vulnerability, and on the other side validation. And if we were able to stay in those two places, the conversations would be so pure and so enlightening, and we would all probably, like, the world that we see around us would not look like this. But we're human, and we have all these triggers, and we have all this karma, and we have so much that comes up. So I just wanted to start by, I think as we go into this last piece that we'll try to carry with us, let's go into it with what comes up that gets between us and being vulnerable and then validating. What is it that blocks that? And let's see if we can release something here as we kind of lean into the part of the conversation we carry with us. So I'll start with you, Alyssa. What is it that gets in between us and just being vulnerable and then validating what we get back?
Are you hearing the dog barking? Is anybody? I feel like ask somebody else. Let me go. Just wait. Okay, maybe she could. She was having a day. Okay, so sorry. Say the question one more time.
What is it that prevents us from just being vulnerable and then validating or whoever we're talking with?
Oh man. Well, it's uncomfortable. It's scary because we've been rejected in our vulnerability, and we've been told we're too much and that we're wrong. And so all the emotions that we're feeling have been disregarded and made to be wrong, bad, and evil. So we feel like that's not a safe place for us to express. So part of reclaiming ourselves, even if we don't have people that are capable of offering that kind of safety, is us to be that part for us. So going in and finding our voice and finding the emotions and then validating the heck out of ourselves. Like, that is how I feel, and I should feel that way. And of course I do. And I deserve to be heard. Even if you're not going to hear me, I am standing up for myself. Like, and it reminds me of I don't even want to say that. Like some types of people, I don't want to say that either, that I am so inspired by are the women that have found like this, like, I am going to do what I want, and like, I'm going to tell it how it is. And it's like, and they kind of come off like, some people be like, oh, that's that fire. But I think it's like the most incredible thing. Like, I think we all need to be more like that. I want the women in my life to be more like, I am proud to be this emotional, and I am proud to state it how it is. And I don't need your approval for how I feel, because this is true and I deserve to be heard. And like that dissonance from, I don't need your acceptance, but I would totally appreciate it. And that will make me feel so connected to you. But either way, I'm going to share my piece, and I am valid in sharing that. And my emotions matter. But it does take a lot of regaining that. And a lot of the time, that kind of doesn't get to happen with someone else if you've dug yourself or you've allowed yourself to be pushed down. It kind of is something you have to reclaim for yourself. So if you're lucky, you get a person that will be able to really be like, that's so valid. You feel like that. And I totally feel bad that this happened. And we've worked our way to that. But a lot of our growth came from me being willing to find my vulnerability and my validation, regardless of when you were going to show up for it. And it's kind of incredible, because in those moments when I feel like I don't care if you accept this or not, I felt my power. And I feel like those are the times where you stepped up the most. And it was because I claimed it and you didn't have to anymore, that it kind of made you have to step up one way or another, but I was already there. So I think it's really uncomfortable and scary, but it is the most empowering thing to find that little girl, that little boy inside you that literally didn't believe his feelings and his experience were valid and important, and was shamed in those places. And instead, speak to that shame or speak to those emotions and be like, no, of course you deserve that. And of course that's how you feel, because that is how you feel, and every feeling is valid. So I would say uncomfortability is the main one. Or complete fear. Both.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing it. And it really did take you stepping into a role that you'd never really witnessed firsthand, but that you felt inside you needed to happen. And you really did gave me permission to lean into this emotional background of reality that I'd pretended wasn't real for like 30 years. So that really did change everything. And not only for me, but for all our kids too. And I'm so grateful that you leaned into the uncomfortability and the fear and just claimed your power and took it back. And that was about 2.5 years ago. And that really did change everything for us. So thank you for sharing. And we'd love to get any other insights here as we kind of wrap things up into what blocks us and what can we reclaim to show up vulnerably and validate our partners. Beth, did you have something to add as well?
Yeah, I'll make it really quick since I know we're at the hour, but Alyssa, thank you so much for everything you said, because that is something that I have struggled with my whole life is if people don't like what I'm saying, or I call them out on something, or I just make them uncomfortable, I'm immediately shamed and silenced and told. I get told a lot that I'm contentious. That's like a word that's really popular in the circles I grew up in. The woman is contentious if she calls something out or she has an opinion. And it's been so ingrained in me my whole life that I carry around that guilt and shame. And I feel guilty for speaking. And I feel like I am the cause and the source of the contention in the relationship. And it's something that I'm still trying to overcome, and realizing that I don't think I'm going to be provided with someone who validates me until I learn to validate myself and not be afraid of being silenced. So thank you, Alyssa, for that.
I feel you, Beth. Thank you so much for sharing.
I love that. And we're going to turn to Eve and Phil. Phil, again, you're our guy tonight. This message, I think, is for all of us, but especially what you're sharing, Beth. The universe is yours, and that universe is here. It's where in those little hearts that Alyssa just sent up on the screen. And it is so much to shift. It is so big. It is so vast, and it can feel so stuck. But it truly does come down to making the little choices that set it free. So thank you so much for sharing. Eve, it looks like I see you bubbling over here. Do you have something that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would like to say something that we say in my culture. They say, you look even prettier if you're quiet. You know, if you are super quiet and you don't say anything, you look way prettier. Yeah, that is, the masculinity there trying to control yourself and women. So in my family, my father, he has been always the guy who studies, listen, sporty, outgoing, that person like that. And a little bit like crazy in a certain way. Yeah, a genius, but a little bit crazy. And my mom was the feminine, was the content, the I want everything clean and tidy. And I was the one in the middle, just looking at all that mess. I think at a certain point, and Alyssa knows that, I have been super content with my emotions. One day we were working and she told me, oh my gosh, but just release yourself, let yourself go and feel it. I'm not, no, I need to be here taking care of everything because I need everything, it in control. And I was that person. I'm still working on it. But to have somebody next to me who's not that content, and I'm talking about my daughter and my husband at a certain point, he's more balanced. He listens, takes a little while to process, but he has his times. And I have found a person who is willing to listen and learn from the other person. And actually, a super wild horse over here, my daughter, that is making just my life rock and be super proud the person that I am becoming in. And I think, guys, if we continue with this kind of chats, it's going to be awesome for me and actually for you, because we'll learn to each other, trying, to listen and share. As I said since the beginning, thank you so much for inviting me.
We love you so much, Evie.
We really do.
Okay, I see.
Fill your heart up. It's so well said.
Power. Come on, hearts. There it is. Woo!
Yes, thank you, Eve. And I love you're releasing the wild horses inside you as we speak. And the words have so much power to do that. So again, thank you to each of you for joining the conversation, for sharing vulnerably, for all these people that have felt like manipulation was the way, to remind them they need a timeout. There may not be prisons for that yet, but we're going to build them, because that's not okay anymore. This is not the way that we choose to live. And we really are so grateful for the opportunity to speak about this together and speak into existence the reality we dream of. So again, thank you so much. Alyssa, anything you'd like to share before we sign off?
Yeah, maybe not prisons, but at least boundaries. You guys can stay on that side until you're going to be nice, and then you can come and participate. But I agree. We're moving in the right direction, and I'm glad to have these conversations. And it was so much fun to just be here with all you guys and being able to see your faces. I know we've been able to do it through the comments, but it is something special to be able to see your face as we're talking. So thank you all for coming, and I'm excited to see you all next week.
Yeah, well, hold on. Let's get all the voices in here. All right, every voice is here. Let's just give a great big goodbye, everyone together, and we'll see everyone next week.
Bye, everybody.